So I saw a video yesterday talking about the fact that the FEI has changed their whip rule and talking about what that might mean, what it might look like, how it might be interpreted. And so I thought this was a really great opportunity to talk about essentially what they've done when they've changed this rule. So essentially what the ruling is saying is that you are no longer allowed to use your whip on cross country as a form of punishment. You are only allowed to use it in the context of negative reinforcement. And so in order to really understand what this looks like and how to interpret this rule, we need to understand positive and negative reinforcement and positive and negative punishment. And we need to, what we're essentially then talking about is operant conditioning. And so I'm going to do a super quick spiel on what operant conditioning is and what it looks like in this particular case. I have loads more elsewhere about this that goes into a lot more detail, but this one's going to be super quick just because it might help people understand the rule a little bit better. So when we're talking about operant conditioning, we have reinforcers and we have punishers. And so essentially when we are reinforcing something, we're saying that we want the horse to repeat that particular behavior. When we are punishing, we're saying we want the horse to not repeat that particular behavior. Then we have positive and negative. And so positive and negative in this particular case does not mean good or bad. It means adding something or subtracting something. So think of the actual symbols, positive, negative, and that's going to help you with that. So when we talk about positive reinforcement, the idea is that the horse does something we like and we therefore add something that they enjoy to reinforce that behavior. So we might say good boy, we might give them a pat, we might give them a scratch, we might give them food. Anything that is pleasant to the horse, we're going to add that because the horse did a behavior that we enjoyed and we want them to repeat that behavior. Then we talk about negative reinforcement, and so in this particular case, the horse is going to do something we want and therefore we are going to take something away. And in this particular case, we mean aversive pressure. And so what that looks like when we're asking the horse to go forward, which is what this rule is talking about, our aversive pressure can be a squeeze from the leg, it can be a kick from the leg, and it can be a tap from the whip. It can even be voice. So when you think of growling, that's an aversive stimulus, an aversive pressure. And when the horse does the thing that we want, then that particular pressure goes away. I'll come back to this one because it's the part that you're actually going to be using for this rule. Then we have punishment. So the horse does something we don't want. We're either going to add something in positive punishment or we're going to take something away in negative punishment. So I'm going to go to negative punishment first. Negative punishment would look like your horse kicks you, so you take away their food. It's worth noting in horses this doesn't work. In humans, you can argue it maybe works, but in horses it absolutely doesn't work. They can't connect it. There's no point doing it. They're learning absolutely nothing. Positive punishment would be the horse does something we like and then we add something. And so that is where potentially we have learned, and I've certainly done it, I was taught it, I advocated for it for a really long time, that the horse does something we don't like and therefore we punish it. So in the case of jumping and in the case of this whip rule, what that looks like is the horse stops at the fence and we then use the whip to punish the stop. And the way that I used to have it explained to me was, that we give him a choice. So we punish him at the base of the fence or as we turn away from it or something like that. And then the horse has the choice to do something different the next time around. And the thing is that it doesn't work that well for horses. And it particularly doesn't work that well for horses because we tend to blend the two. We use the whip as positive punishment and negative reinforcement, and that doesn't make sense. If we only used it as positive punishment, it would make more sense to the horse. You could argue on the ethics of that. So in this particular case, the rule is saying that we're not allowed to do that anymore. And part of that is great because it's going to lead to less conflict behaviors from horses because we're going to be using clearer aids. Essentially, we're not muddying them. The whip isn't sometimes negative reinforcement and sometimes positive punishment. It's one or the other. So that's going to be great. The other thing that's going to happen is we're talking about the social license to operate. And so it looks really bad, essentially, when we whip our horses as punishment. And nobody wants to see that, right? We want to save our sport. We want our sport to be shown that we actually love the animals. And I don't think anyone does this out of a lack of love for their animal, but they do it out of a lack of understanding of what they're actually doing, a lack of understanding of positive and negative reinforcement and punishment, and therefore blending those two things. And potentially they've been taught that. I was taught that. I taught that to people, and potentially they've just picked it up along the way. Potentially it is just a, discharge of negative emotion from us. because, you know, we're annoyed or we're upset or we're scared because the horse stopped, and so we're punishing them for it. So that is how we can use it in positive punishment. Then we can use it in negative reinforcement. And so what that looks like is, with our negative reinforcement, we have our particular stimulus that we're going to take away when the horse does the correct thing. In this particular case, we're going to add leg to ask the horse to go forward. When the horse goes forward, we're going to take it off. But if the horse doesn't respond to the squeeze, we're going to escalate those aids. So we're going to go from squeeze to kick to tap with the whip until the horse gives us the correct response. And what we're doing in this is not punishing the horse for not going forward initially. We're reinforcing what we were doing. So we are escalating those aids until the horse gives the correct response, and then we're going to take them away. And so you can argue that that is training. That is training the correct response to your leg, so that when you do that, it does make sense. And you end up with a horse, and I'm not saying that we should hit them every time, but if you go through that progression, not skipping straight to the whip, not skipping straight to the kick, if you go from very light aids to stronger aids, what ends up happening is that the horse does start associating that desire to go forward with the aid in the first place, so with that softer leg aid, and you end up with a horse that is more in front of your leg and more responsive to the lighter aids, because you have been super consistent. Because it is not a case of negative reinforcement, punishment, because we have muddied that water with the whip. And so when we do that, it means that because we're doing it from a thoughtful place, because we're doing it from a training place, we're not going to beat the horse. We're going to use it a bit more thoughtfully. It is going to be a tap. We're going to wait for that response. We're going to go, yeah, great, I got the response. I leave the horse alone. And we're actually going to teach the horse, therefore, that when I put my leg on in front of the fence, I want you to move up a little bit to it, so that we get that really good distance, or so that we get that ride, or whatever it is. We're actually going to teach the horse something from that. So this has not been that quick, but it is a relatively quick summary of our operant conditioning, and therefore how to understand this new rule. So the new rule is saying essentially that you are only allowed to use your whip in the case of negative reinforcement rather than positive punishment. It is only allowed to reinforce your leg aid. It is not allowed to be used as a punishment for the horse. I hope that helps you.